Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Mikki Westcombe. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this. All right. Well, let's get into that because, as you can tell, we've got the ladies on today, but we have a more masculine lady in the room. Slightly more masculine voice.
I'm trying to grow my hair out.
So, everyone listening in, we do have Tyson with us today. Jordan, I suppose you should probably do more of the introduction for Tyson because you guys have a little bit more of a connection relationship. This is the first time I've met Tyson and really spoken to you, though I've heard of you and follow along with your stuff.
Yep.
Mainly seeing it like the banter between you and Ollie at one point, and then and then obviously just the good content that you're putting out. But Jordan, I'll let you take the reins here and introduce our special guest for today.
So Tyson is a nutrition coach over in Sydney, and he actually coached me for a short while, or 6 months actually.
I think it's about 6 months.
Yeah,
it's not a short while.
Yeah, it's not a short while actually. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
But I feel like you should do the rest of the introduction. You know, tell us about you.
I started off as a PT, like real basic, and I found that I wasn't able to help my clients get the results they wanted, you know, especially because you only see them for 45, 60 minutes and you're like, oh, so how was the rest of your week? They're like, oh, well, the day after I saw you, it kind of just went to shit. So I realized nutrition played such a big part and I wanted to be able to offer that. And nutrition education for me helped me get out of my eating disorder, like learning about it properly. So then I was like, oh, this can actually help a lot of people. And so I went down that route to study. First I studied with it's called Mac Nutrition Uni, which is overseas. And then I did Sports Nutrition Association in Australia. And then I did my graduate diploma in sports nutrition. Yep. And it's just been such a big benefit. Like, even though I've done all that extra study just to deal with, you know, normal people, it's just teaching them the basics and what's important for fundamentals. So I'm a nutrition coach and I'm a PT.
Do you do like online strength coaching and stuff like that, or are you primarily in the nutrition realm?
Most of it is nutrition now, but I still obviously do offer strength coaching, not like powerlifting or anything like that, just people who want to get in the gym and move and
like Gen Pop mostly.
Yeah, Gen Pop mostly,
Yeah, cool.
But I do work out of a powerlifting gym up in Sydney as like a face-to-face nutrition, Alpha Athletes.
Yep.
So I'm a face-to-face nutritionist there, and then we got all the strength coaches there too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. We had one of our old clients, Izzy, training out of there for quite a long time.
Oh, yep.
I think you did her nutrition.
Did you do Izzy's nutrition?
Izzy Van?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did her nutrition. Yeah, did it last year. Yeah.
So Will was coaching her for a period of time there.
Oh, last year, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Before Malta.
Yes, yeah, correct. So it's a good group of people there. When they came up here and she did a nationals, we met a lot of the team and stuff like that down at Alpha. So they're a good crew of people out there. So if you're in Sydney, obviously go down and check them out. But today's agenda we have still keeping in the realm of strength training, because though you mentioned like you don't necessarily coach like powerlifters or anything like that, the dieting side of things, a lot of powerlifters, I guess, try to steer away from a little bit, or as best they can, for multitude of reasons like fear of hunger and all that sort of stuff. But that's kind of what we wanted to get into today. But before we get into that, there's a couple of little notes here that Jordan has, and I just want to make sure that we tick off for those local to the area in the Gold Coast. We have our Nexus Novice Comp. The entries are now live. Ollie's actually chucking his
hat in the
ring for that one. So we should have a really cool crew. So that's based here on the Gold Coast, the 25th of May.
Do you want to max out?
Yeah. Do you want
to come back up?
Yeah. Come back up. Honestly, the amount of people that are traveling for comps that we do here, it's actually really cool. Like our Deadlift for Dogs comp, we'll throw your hat in the ring for that one.
I told you about that one.
Yeah. So that's our charity event that we do every year. And we have a lot of people actually fly up from Melbourne and around the place to come and do that comp.
Who doesn't want to do that?
I know.
It's like a holiday and you do a deadlift.
Yeah, exactly. And like Gold Coast in August August is honestly fucking sick.
Yeah.
It's way better
Yeah.
than Melbourne and Sydney in August.
Yeah.
So bias there a little
Not
bit.
at all.
I mean, Sydney's never good. I'm just going to say it. So, you know.
You're not a fan?
Nah. Like,
Why would you say that then?
family, friend.
Okay.
Oh, not family. I don't have any family. That's a lie. Just friends. Just friends
Yeah, I
group.
just said that.
Yeah. Just a friends group mainly. Hey.
Well, you can make friends on the Gold Coast.
Yeah. If my partner's listening to this,
Yeah.
you got to
Angie.
convince her. Yeah, you got to convince her.
Drop.
Yeah.
Dropping the hints there. And then the other thing that we have going on here in the Gold Coast facility is a free SBD workshop.
I saw that on the blackboard, so I was like, I'll just put it in the podcast.
Yeah, so the 30th of March, which I think is actually Easter weekend. I don't look at public holidays.
They don't really exist when you
They
Easter
don't.
just changes too much for me.
Yeah,
Every year
like-
I'm like, when is it now? You know?
Well, you know when there's like school holidays and stuff like that. Like you don't have kids, I'm
No.
assuming. Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't have kids yet either. I don't fucking know when school holidays
same.
are on. Seriously, like I pay zero attention to it. And so when they're like, "Oh, it's a public holiday coming up here," or "It's a school holiday here," I'm like,
Yep.
"Yep, cool, man. Like staff get a day off. All right, no worries."
You're like, shit, I'm manning the gym.
Literally. Or it's like I'll be messaging Jordan. I'm like, "Jordan, make sure you shuffle your clients around." She's like, "No."
I hate admin.
So she'll just like slot in time off on other days when she feels like
Yeah.
it, so she doesn't have to shuffle everyone around.
It's too hard.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, so the 30th of March, we have a free SBD workshop here run by head coach Joshua Sturzenberg and Wilbo Baggins. So if you're in Gold Coast or want to travel, come around, and registration forms for that will be going out sometime this week. So, topic, context. I'm going to read this word for you. Just to embarrass you. Topic, context. Dieting, strength training, and mindset. Where do you see this scenario play?
I guess I wanted to start off.
Yeah.
Like what type of people come to you wanting to like maintain strength while dieting?
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like it's usually powerlifters wanting to kind of like go within a certain weight class or maximize their dots or whatever. But for you, do you see that in gym pop as well, or
Nah, it's literally just the
just
powerlifters that I
powerlifters?
train. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really weird because like no one else has ever said that to me. I've trained people who are interested really in bodybuilding or just gen poppers, and no one's been like, "Oh, I don't want to lose strength on a diet." But then coming into the powerlifting world, it was such a common thing, and I was like, "Where is this coming from?" So it was very interesting to deal with people like that, and the perception that they already put in their head, like I'm going to get weaker when I diet, and then trying to change that mentality, you know, because if you go into something and you say I'm going to be weaker, well then yeah, you probably are going to be, but it's just not the case. You know, it's one of those myths that we just keep saying.
I think it's when you look at the whole identity around powerlifting, it is maximal strength, right? Like that is literally the sport. Whereas bodybuilders know that they're going to get weaker as they diet more and get closer and closer into a comp. Having done both, like I was weak as piss when I was coming into my last bodybuilding comp. Like 5 kilo side raises felt like hell. So it's one of those things that like, I suppose when you look at the sport as a whole, what are you getting out of it? It's like, well, as bodybuilders or general athletes or general population, like strength doesn't matter too much to them.
It's not that concern.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas for bodybuilders, for powerlifters, it's all consuming.
the
It's
pinnacle of what they want.
literally. And so like I've had a few people come on board that, you know, are plus size that really do need to lose weight just for the health side of it. And understanding that depending on the amount of weight that needs to be lost, you know, 20 kilos or something like that, you're probably going to get fucking weaker if you have a large amount of fat mass that needs to be moved momentarily, though, knowing that long term there's going to be the health benefits and all that sort of stuff that come from it, better muscle tissue and those sorts of things, so that you can get stronger long term.
Yeah.
Do you think some people don't also realize that their relative strength is probably better? Like, though they might feel weaker, they're actually still just as strong.
Yes, it's like the DOTS formulas
Yeah,
and things
yeah,
like that. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. There's definitely a multitude of different things that kind of come into it. So And that's, I guess, what we kind of want to unpack today, a few of these different mindset approaches that people have. So I want to give a shout out to John Breen, because I said I was going to before we hit record on this. So shout out, John. You've asked for this episode, and here we are.
We've delivered.
We have delivered very conveniently the day after you asked about it. But Tyson, give us a rundown. Like, how do you, I guess, navigate a lot of those conversations? Like, you know, we mentioned that you were helping Izzy through her nutrition, and obviously being literally world champion powerlifter, like I can understand when she was, I know she tried to go down a weight class and stuff like that, like navigating that sort of conversation with someone of that caliber.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing we focus on first is making sure that we have a good enough time horizon to get to the end goal. You know, no matter what, if you have a short time horizon to get somewhere and you're trying to aggressively cut weight, you're going to get weaker regardless, just because it's, you know, it's so taxing on the body. So having that talk with her first and thinking how long we've got, and then trying to transition that out. Like, not like every week is going to look exactly like this scale weight going down, but just making sure we have enough room to get to that end goal and taking it slow, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So that's the first important thing, just being able to sit down and kind of plan that out. Secondly, when it comes to educating them about nutrition, what I try and explain to them when they think about, oh, am I going to get weaker? Just reflecting on them when they first started training for powerlifting. Like, they didn't gain weight or lose weight. A lot of people probably quite weight neutral, but watch how quickly your lifts went up because it's all neurological, and just helping them understand how neurological adaptations play such a big part. So it's a little bit of an education process on that side of things, and a lot of people seem to start to piece together when they understand that. And then from there, it's just making sure they're fueled before their session too. You know, thankfully, it's not a lot of extra work you have to do to maintain your strength. It's just about being smart, and again, not really dieting it too aggressively or neglecting your sleep either.
Recovery.
Recovery, 100%.
Yeah, those are, I mean, when you look at the big rocks of performance at the end of the day, like I've always said, like, training in the gym doesn't make you stronger. Like, recovering from that training is what's going to make you stronger. And recovery can slow down when obviously in a deficit. So that's where you can start to look higher up, I guess, at that pyramid scale and go, well, what are some of the other things that we now need to start to pay a little bit more attention to mitigate, I guess, the recovery side effects or the slower recovery sort of side effects that we have. So like you said, like structuring out different dieting phases, and Jordan's got notes here on being like more conservative as well with the deficit. So I guess when we look at like maintenance calories, obviously there's a range of spectrum of that. Like, are you someone, Tyson, that does a little bit more of an aggressive approach with some people, or how would you look at like caloric sort of breakdowns for powerlifters?
It would depend on the weight class and how much extra body fat that person has. If you have extra body fat, you probably can get away with being a little bit more aggressive. And when I say aggressive, like 1% of your body weight a week. At the start anyways. Like, obviously, no matter what, the further into deficit you go, you just get fatigued overall. So, but for most people, I try and aim for that 0.5% of body weight a week, because then it's based on the person. You know, so for someone, it might be a 300 calorie deficit. For someone else, it might be a 500 calorie deficit. But having it relative is the most important thing. And I guess when you have a look at the phase of the training cycle as well, you know, are they coming into their comp? Do you actually have room to move with that? Or is a weight cut something that you're just going to have to go through in that final peaking week or tapering week? And I guess their mindset approaching it too. Like, someone like Will, my partner, he has no interest in doing a slow, conservative, dragged out, steady sort of weight cut. He's like, I don't like the feeling of hunger. I've done the fucking bodybuilding side of things. I can go hard and get the fat off and do what I need to do for 4 to 6 weeks and just suffer. Knowing that it's only 4 to 6 weeks, depending obviously on the phase of the training that they're going through. Whereas like, you know, you've mentioned that some eating disorders there. Like, I personally had like bulimia and stuff like that growing up. So for me, and I guess maybe I have this bias in my own way of coaching, like I'll take a little bit more of a conservative stepped out sort of approach, but it really comes down to the conversation that you're having with the individual. How aggressive do they want to go, and how conservative can you sort of take those phases? And like you just said, you've got to think about the ramifications of the person too, you know, who's coming to you and how you're going to suit it around them. Along with that, like for another example, I've got a client, Lauren, she's competing next week, and I've just given her maintenance calories for peak week, and then obviously just because at the end of the day, it's going to mentally make you feel better too. It's not like it's going to significantly change her performance these next 2 weeks, but just having a little bit of extra food put you in a better place regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll typically try and keep people at maintenance calories by sort of 4 to 6 weeks out, ideally at a minimum, pending obviously where they are in the basis of their weight class and stuff like that. Like I've got a couple of girls competing at Pro Raw, and one of which is a little bit more above the weight class that we want to be. So sadly, they are in a deficit at the moment.
Yep.
And we'll probably have to still do a weight cut as well because of the amount of body weight percentage that we have to actually drop.
Yep.
But these are some of the ramifications that come from not coming to a coach well in advance, not planning well in advance, and not being put up in a better position before you even start your prep. So I guess we've talked about, and I'll jump back to these notes here in a minute, but we've talked about like throughout a prep, like trying to mitigate some of the recovery and stuff like that. Like, are you as concerned about it in an off season as what you would be throughout the course of someone's prep?
Recovery?
Yeah.
Oh,
or
yeah.
just like maintaining strength whilst dieting.
Yeah, 100%. Like ideally any time they're doing it, because at the end of the day, we talked about strength being like the pinnacle. It's like that's what we do not want to move at the end of the day.
Yep.
And what I noticed, like obviously what we talked about before, people who are doing big weight drops, mass moves mass. If you're losing a big amount of mass, you are going to lose it regardless. So for me, it's just if people feel like they want to go a little bit more aggressive off season, they've got the spare room to do it. They're just, work's quiet at the moment. They're able to recover. They're able to push themselves a little bit harder. We can absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
But again, for me, the max is still 1% of that body weight. So even if it's a 60 kilo person, you're not going above 600 grams a week,
Yeah.
Because if you do risk losing muscle mass, then that is definitely going to negatively
That's when you get
impact
weaker.
your strength. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like a lot of people don't take that into consideration is that you don't have to be 1 RM strong year round.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the point of a prep is to build up that peaking strength.
Yep.
And then in the off seasons, you're working on accruing muscle mass or fixing any technique adjustments or any of that sort of stuff. And one of the notes that I added in here personally is like when you're going through like a dieting phase, there's some of the like strength loss that you're going to accrue or, that might occur is due to things like body shape changes.
Yeah, leverages.
Right? So leverages are going to change, your general starting position, how things feel like when you're getting it. Like I've had some people that couldn't get into a good deadlift position because the gut was in the way. They couldn't wear belts and now they're wearing belts and stuff like that. So like your body shape changing is definitely going to have some like impacts on the general strength. And then the other note that I've got here is, well, these are all things that Will actually came up with, which was like general coordination, but understanding that strength generally comes from skill acquisition. So if you can get into a better position, then like learning better technique, better quality technique in that new position because your body shape is improved.
Suited,
Efficiency at the end of the day, moving
absolutely.
from point A to point B as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So like as a newbie as well, though, I don't feel like your strength is going to be as impacted as what it would be if you were someone that was
It'll probably still go up, to be honest. Like I said, just neurologically, like just being better at the activity.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you think about the whole I don't know where I'm going with this, but like the learning the skill of lifting and improvements in your health and stuff like that is going to have better outcomes in your performance and your strength and stuff like that anyways. So let me pull up the notes that Jordan has written. Did I not tell you that she was going to
God,
do
you're
it?
so much like Angie. She has voices all the time. I just look at her, I'm like, what are you doing?
I told you, Potassium. Don't make me say it. Like, you got to do it yourself, you just said. I just have to point and be like,
she's
literally.
like that sometimes.
She's special. All right, so let's have a look at some of the notes here. Misconceptions around dieting and strength. Like, what's some of the misconceptions that you typically see, George?
I feel like I have this with the client at the moment. They just think whenever the scale drops, that means I'm weaker. And a lot of the time they might go into their sessions just preempting that this is going to be really hard and heavy today because I'm in a diet, my weight's dropped, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
And your perception becomes your reality. Like whatever you think, like that's what's going to happen. And to translate that to lifting, like I feel like there are so many people out there that are like, oh, I suck at bench, I suck at deadlifts. And then they don't really put the effort in because they're like, oh, I'm shit at this.
Yep.
Similar with a diet, if someone's kind of going into the session thinking, oh, I'm so depleted, like, oh.
But you're not.
Yeah, like you're okay. You've had your pre-carb snack, you're all good.
Yeah, you've had 40 grams of carbs before you started
you're all
training.
G, you slept your 8 hours, you know, shit's going well. You've had all your veggies and your fruit and your protein. But they might not push as hard because they're like, I've got to take it a bit easier. Like,
I'm dieting.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I see with people is that they kind of just set themselves up, not to fail, but they kind of just don't try as hard when they train.
Yeah.
And if they're pushing hard in their sessions, that's when they're going to like maintain their muscle and all of that kind of stuff. So that's something that I personally see come up a lot.
One of the things that I would say is that when people feel hunger, they associate hunger with fatigue. Right. And they're not the same thing. Yeah. Like to me, like you can be hungry and still like have energy in the system to perform and train and stuff like that. Like fatigue is something that I believe is like accumulated over a period of time. It's not just like I'm hungry, therefore an hour later I'm totally fucked and like I can't perform or anything like that. Like definitely there's, you know, the whole like cognitive function and reactive times and things like that that can be slowed down. But to me, like people just instantly associate the two and be like, oh, I'm hungry, therefore everything, like I can't produce the force that's needed.
I've never actually thought of hunger being like in that way before with people.
Well, people not being able to understand the difference between appetite and hunger, and so they get like some social, like I should be having my Maximus throughout this session that's going to make me feel better throughout my training and stuff like that. So the appetite cue is signaling to them like that they're hungry and it's not the same thing. Like do you find anything like that?
Or if they're not having that in the session, like you just said, like, oh well, I'm not gonna have my intra workout carbs, like you said, depleted before. I'm like, oh my god, like
Does that trigger you?
We're not getting depleted anytime soon. And it's funny because these stories we tell ourselves and it's like, are you crazy? Like but especially that, like, oh, I'm cutting calories, I can't have my intra workout carbs, my Powerade, I'm not gonna have a good session. It's like, listen, you're not doing like you're training intensely, but you're not training intense like repeatedly. So relax.
It's like 20 minutes of work or 30 minutes of total work.
Like literally. Like think about a good thing that people to think about. It's like how long does one set actually take you?
Yeah.
Count every minute. Let's say each one's a minute. You do 20 sets. That's 20 minutes of actual work. You're not depleting glycogen. So I think even just having that knowledge to be able to reframe that for yourself can really be a big change mentally. Like, oh, I actually don't need this. You know?
Yeah. Unless you're literally a diabetic like Will who
needs the sugar.
Is like midway through a squat and then looks and he's like,
gone hyper.
3.5. I should probably get something in right now and like actually need something. Like unless there is literally something that is like crashing your blood sugars down into the ground, you don't need that sort of stuff all the time as well. So is there any other like misconceptions that you would like that you commonly come across? Or
I think it's really that, hey, it just comes down to, like you said, with the hunger side of things too. Like people associate hunger as being bad. It's
yes.
Like, no, hunger is a good sign. Like if you're trying to lose weight and you get hungry, aces, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes even like you may think, again, you're hungry, but you're actually craving something.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're hungry, will you go eat chicken and broccoli right now? Not really. Like you're not hungry, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Yeah. I would eat fucking chicken and broccoli.
Yeah.
There was literally a phase in my prep where I was putting salt on broccoli and eating it. Like that was the extreme hunger that I was in, and I was fucking enjoying it too. Like,
that's
microwave.
That's depleted. That's when you know you're depleted.
Steamed broccoli with like some salt and seasoning on it. I'm like,
gourmet. You're like,
delightful. 900 calories a day. This is fucking it, boys. We're feasting. Feasting tonight. So literally, like that is depleted.
That's when you know.
But like you were saying, like people fear hunger and just think that it is like must be avoided at all costs. It's funny. I was literally doing a reel on that, like a little script reel before I hit
before you came
record-
in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
before we came in today, that Bowser was like watching me over
I
the
saw that
staring at me awkwardly. I'm like, can you stop looking at me, dog?
Don't
But,
judge
like,
me.
literally saying like, have you ever actually tried to like find hunger and enjoy the feeling of hunger? Like, I said that to Will. I was like, have you ever considered actually trying to enjoy the feeling of hunger? He's like, no, it's fucking shit. I'm like, no, but if you associate hunger to the results that you're looking for, which is getting leaner and losing fat mass, then like if you can flip that switch a little bit in your mind and go, oh, this is actually like what I'm looking for right now.
This is what I wanted.
This is good.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not like a bad thing that you should be avoiding and fear at all costs. It's so horrible. So I was literally just doing some reels and stuff like that on it today. So content coming out soon. But
I find it very interesting that, like, you know, we look at the bodybuilding scene.
Yeah.
And they all talk about that, you know, being hungry is good, all these things.
Yeah.
But it's so divided, whereas like you step in another scene and it's like there's just so much different communication going between the two, where it's like there's a lot that you can learn from each other to carry over that is going to benefit both of these people. You know?
You'll often find that like good bodybuilders also are
They're so good at powerlifting.
Yeah, they're strong. They're strong.
Yeah. They got a lot of fucking mass, and that helps a lot.
Right.
Like the biggest thing is the skill acquisition, and as soon as they can perform like a 1RM, and get better at like the technique of lifting, then like things fucking skyrocket.
Yeah.
The problem is that they're almost too brutally strong to begin with, that they end up hurting themselves because they just push themselves too quickly. Connective tissue and stuff like that is not ready for this load. Ollie learnt that the hard way.
Yeah, that was me with Ollie lifting too. I've just ruined myself trying to do that because
progress too quickly.
Yeah, and just because like I just like to say like I typically train bodybuilding, let's say, but like I can deadlift like 280, right? And things like that. Then I went
maybe
to
300 deadlift for dogs.
Yeah, right, maybe. And then I went to like Ollie lifting and I just clean and jerked 100 the first day, and everyone's like, that is terrible technique, but just because I have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
And it was trying to find that balance of like, you've got to learn the technique first, which means you have to pull it back and then build yourself up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for tendons and stuff like that. Yeah, like as Ollie knows,
connective tissue is not ready for this load.
Yeah.
Muscles can produce the force, but everything else that stabilizes those joints are not ready for it. All right, so you've mentioned here a few times like strength being neurological, and it's definitely possible to maintain that and also get stronger whilst being in a diet.
I find that funny though. I find so many people are like, oh, like weight down, strength up. Oh my God, what's happening? And it's like, well, that can happen.
Yeah. Well, part of it, like we were talking about, is the skill. Just getting better at lifting, being in better positions and stuff like that, but also the mindset of walking into how those things are. So what are some of like smart nutrition practices that you guys will typically implement, different stress variables, lifestyle variables, and things like that you would do to try and help people through minimizing like the dieting sort of out like negative side effects that people have? Like, is there anything in particular that you'll try and like intentionally put in place?
Well, the thing that I've been stressing with my client recently, who is going down a weight class for this Team Champs comp coming up in all the rage.
I've got a client doing Team Champs.
Oh my God, it's all the rage. But
it's good though. Powerlifting needs that.
I'm so excited. Like I want to do it. Like I'm jealous. But anyway, so with him, for instance, like he was really set. Like he loves his recovery, and he was doing like you know, lots of like movement and like swimming and everything, which was then eating into his sleep. Like he was swimming in the afternoon and then getting home late. And I'm like, right now, I'm like, I know that you like doing all this other stuff, but like sleep is actually going to be the best thing for you.
Yeah.
Like dial back some of these other things. I know they help you like de-stress, but they're actually still movement and stressful right now while like you're
still
peaking.
Adding stress to the system, and not all stress is bad.
Yeah. And so like for that, it was kind of really drilling in the importance of sleep for recovery. And like he's getting 8-9 hours and he's like, oh my God, like I'm hitting all these PBs. I feel fantastic. And I'm like, it's because we're focusing on like the nutrition side as well, like is sorted. We've got his meal timing like laid out, his protein, you know, sitting really nicely. He's making sure he's getting like those higher carb foods in psychologically as well. So before he was like, oh, I'm feeling a bit, I'm like, let's sprinkle in some more carbs. And now he's feeling fantastic. Like, so
he's repleted again.
So I think it's like obviously going slow, conservative, a lot of the stuff we talked about in meal timing and structuring your food so you're getting a lot in during the day while you're the most active and sandwiching your carbs around your training. But then also just really like respecting sleep was the biggest thing with this person.
Yeah. What are some of the, is there anything in particular that you'll do?
Sleep 100%. Micronutrients. So like I'm so big, whether you're dieting or not, like you got to get your fruits and veggies in, you know, they play such a vital role. They're not going to like physically impact you the way you look or your strength, but they have so many underlying things they do in the body and it plays such a big role.
Well, see, that's where I would like disagree with you a little bit there and saying like, they do have impacts on how you look because of the like the role that they play within the body. You know what I mean? Like if you're eating more, then less bloat, less gut distension, all those sorts of things. Like I had a guy who's 2 weeks in, he's like, I'm looking down and like my belly's not there anymore. You know what I mean? So like I would disagree with you a little bit there, but it's the same
No, you're
thing.
right. It's funny because like even the fiber, right? Like I've had a client, it's like, oh, I'm going to the bathroom every day because I'm eating like plenty of fiber. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, right. He's like clean snaps. I'm like, amazing.
I love that.
Pull out the Bristol stool chart.
Well, that was like my
post on Prue the other day.
But like things like that, people don't talk about it either. It's like this is important, man. So micros, I think, play a huge factor. But again, like sleep. It's kind of like, you know, you look at the recovery, the same thing as people who warm up. They're like, oh, I've got to do my 2-hour warm up. Like, are you going to train or are you just going to warm up for the most part? Like, oh, that's my recovery or cool down or warming up. But it's like, if it's eating into your actual training or your actual recovery, then there's going to be an issue. Yeah. People look like, oh, ice bath, sauna, all these things. It's like, just relax, man. Like, all you actually need to do is chill out a little bit, get 7 to 9 hours based on how much you know you need, and you're going to recover quite well.
Yeah. So is there any micronutrients in particular that you would be intentionally inserting into people's like diets or things like that throughout the time? Or
vitamin D, no matter what. That's an important one. Depends if people eat yogurt or get calcium. So usually I get the vitamin D calcium together that you can get. Because a lot of people, some don't eat dairy. Getting their fruits and veggies in will cover a lot of their micronutrients, but also make sure they're eating red meat, because I know a lot of, especially females, don't seem to eat as much red meat.
Yeah, I'm a big chicken person.
Yeah, right. So like, if not, get a blood test, make sure your B12 and your iron's good. Otherwise, there would be ones I'd supplement in. Creatine, but only if it's not going to impact their weight, right? So like I'd have them taking creatine further away, or even when we get closer, if they still want to drop a little bit, pull the creatine out. Basically,
I typically pull it like 10 days out. I've got a client doing pro raw 2-hour weigh, and I'm like 10 days out, we're pulling it out. She's at like 5 to 10 grams of creatine she takes a day. So I'm like, that'll drop the next 200 grams off easy. So do you have a look at any of like other electrolyte profiles and stuff like that, or do you typically just have that sort of stuff in throughout the year anyways?
Just throughout the year, like kind of what we talked about before, like it depends if the person's a big sweater or not. And if you want to know if you're a salty sweater, you just taste your sweat. Like if you're salty, you're definitely a salty sweater.
If Bowser's licking you in the gym here, we know it's on.
Get ready.
That's going to be me 100%. Every time I'm in the gym, Piccolo, the Dashan there, he just comes up to me and will just not leave me alone. So just when it comes to looking at electrolytes too, I never try and add more in. It just depends on how clean the person eats. This kind of goes back to more Gen Pop. When I notice females dieting, they always choose cleaner foods, like they're more health focused, which is good, but they actually pull out sodium. And then you'll notice blood pressure dropping. Then they're having issues with that. So for females, it's right. So for females, it's more actually trying to get sodium in. For males, it's just kind of watching what their intake's like.
Actually monitor their sodium, because I've had some males are like 6,000 milligrams plus a day, and just be like,
like I'm sweet. You're like, are you sure about that?
Like, unless you're a real sweaty human being, like. You know, I've had some guys up in cans on that sort of thing. I'm like, you know what? Like, you literally sweat as much as you drink.
Just standing still. You're like,
okay, like it's high, but you know, like it's not that big of a deal if we're getting in some of these other things and you're not experiencing any like negative side effects from it or whatever. Cool. All right, let me see what else we've got on this list here. You've mentioned perception becoming a reality. Any common barriers you see?
I guess, like, how would you...
When it comes to, like...
like navigating someone to, like, change their view on diet equals loss in strength. Like, do you have things that you... Like, you said education before.
Yep. Like, apart from education, it's kind of like showing them themselves. I'm like, I want you to show yourself that you're not going to get weaker, because a lot of they need the convincing, but it can't come from someone else. It has to be from them actually getting the results. You know, I could tell someone, oh, this diet's going to work for you, and if they don't believe me, even though it's going to work, then they're not going to do it. But if they have, you know, people do keto, people do carnivore, all those things, they have the belief this is going to work for me, and it works for them basically. So having the results show themselves is a really important thing.
Yeah. And for you, having complete confidence in what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
Like it's funny, I was actually talking to Aiden about this when it comes to like weight cuts and stuff like that. And he's like, you know, the way that I help someone through some of the anxiety and the nerves and stuff like that around like a weight cutting week is I have never had someone lose a weight, like miss a weight class before. And so I can say with complete confidence and certainty that we will get you there.
Yep.
There's some sacrifices and things like that that may need to be made, but at the end of the day, like this plan I know with complete certainty is going to work for you. And so because I'm so confident in what I'm fucking doing and how I can help you, like that naturally starts to rub off on the individual as well and
100%.
creates buy-in to what you're trying to do. So it's also like the delivery of what you're saying and how you're saying it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but people still need to experience it themselves.
Yeah. But like you said, like it's such a big thing because I had a client, she was doing, she did a strongman comp on the weekend and we did a little bit of a diet on the way out and I was like, she's like, oh, I don't know if we're going to make it. I was like, look, we'll do a low residue diet the week off. It's going to be fine. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, trust me, 100%, it's going to be all good. And then by Wednesday, she's like, oh, I'm going to make weight. I'm like, exactly. It's all good. You're sweet. Like, you know, just having that confidence in yourself because if you get someone else to buy into you, they're sold, you know?
Yeah. It's like you're saying with the paleo, the keto, all that sort of stuff. If they are so invested and like you can't tell someone otherwise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you can't tell them that that's probably not the best approach. Where they're like, fuck you. Like I know this works for me. It's worked for me before. So absolutely, I think that buy-in to it is super important. And like for me, I think that's barriers that I would personally come into you know, communication issues with is like just having someone see the positives that are going to come out of that experience at the end of the day. So like, you know, someone might be really reluctant or hesitant to want to go into a diet to begin with because they're like, oh, I don't want to lose this strength. Like I'm worried about that sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, let them know, like worst case scenario, we might lose a little bit of strength momentarily, but these are all the positives that are going to come out of this experience after the fact. Like, you know, we're going to minimize muscle loss, if any, over the course of this time. But long term, the leaner you are, your body wants to put on like better quality tissue, muscle mass and stuff like that over time. If you're fatter and you're trying to go into a surplus of calories, your body is more likely to put on fat mass as well. So if we can create buy-in of like after the process, the positive things that are going to come out of this, the next time you go into a surplus, you're more likely to put on like better quality muscle mass and all those sorts of things. Like people will be invested in that period of time and be okay maybe if there is any like muscle loss strength because they know that there's the positives that come after that, if that makes sense. So let me have a look what else we got here. Do you find people don't automatically train as hard? Like when you were going through, did you guys go through a diet together?
We attempted.
It wasn't really a diet.
We tried
like...
and we're like, I'll go back to my like, let's try to figure out how many calories we can have instead.
She's too small. Let's bring it back.
Because you went to Melbourne, remember?
Yes.
So we tried to do a little bit of deficit, and then we went back up to maintenance to try to increase her maintenance calories. We kind of found your sweet spot overall.
Yeah. So it was more like with Tyson was maximizing maintenance and all the 1%ers.
I don't feel like you've ever really done like a hard cut diet because you've never really needed to.
No, like I have dieted before. Like I've done like little like mini cuts like before like prep. I did one last year. But like it was fine. Like I knew I don't know, I didn't fail anything. I was still progressing each week and I still pushed hard because I knew like it was going to be okay. Like it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So you weren't coming into that like bitching out on anything?
No.
See, I'm the opposite. Like when I diet and I feel good, it's like a perpetual. I'm like, I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just in a really good place. Like I actually feel like if anything, because all that stuff is more dialed, my training, I'm also like, I want to train. Because like I always think about train, like people are like, oh, if you want to gain muscle while you diet or anything like that, train as hard as you can if you want to try and gain muscle while you're dieting. Give your body the reason to grow, not the reason to lose muscle because you think, oh, I'm going to be weaker or I'm just
Yeah, exactly. So like aligning your training styles with what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, and we talk about this in our nutrition course as well. Like, you know, if you're going into a diet and you're trying to actually get stronger, it's like, well, you're misaligning the training style with like the dieting style. So unless you have to lose weight for a competition that you've got coming up or whatever, like put your training style as hypertrophy so that your body's still in a position to at least hold on to the muscle mass and push things, and you don't have as much like systemic fatigue from those heavy ass fucking weights. Like if you can swap out like deadlifts for RDLs, still keep that hinging pattern in there, and then go slam yourself on, you know, a belt squat or a pendulum or something like that, and
the best.
you know, and still keep like go ham on that sort of shit where there's less like systemic fatigue that could be accrued. Like those are definitely things that like are going to keep you more excited to train hard and push hard. But you're absolutely right. Like the better you feel generally, like the more effort you want to put into whatever it is, whatever task at hand you have. Like I know personally I'm in a bit of a mental like with my training and stuff like that. So like I'm intentionally trying to improve my food choices and my meal timings because I'm still not eating until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mikki.
Yeah, I know, it's bad.
Depleted.
It's fucking bad. So yeah, I probably am fucking depleted. Literally.
Get us some broccoli.
Let's steam some broccoli, put some salt on that shit. But you know, like I feel like if I start to get better food choices, better meal timing in and all that sort of stuff, and maybe put together a bit of a program, like I'll be putting more effort into not only that sort of stuff, but also like feel the stresses that are going on in my life don't feel like as much of a burden because you're just in a better mental place generally across the board. And I feel like when I've done diets and stuff like that in the past, like I've felt actually good. Like I haven't actually felt like shit because you look at yourself and you're like, fuck yeah, you look good.
You put on your cute gym outfit.
Today is
yeah, literally you're wearing your two-piece and you're like, oi, watch out, boys. Walking down the street.
Your matching pastel set.
Gold Coast for you.
You'll see. Well, when you,
I'm like, I don't understand this at all.
I'll point them out to you while we're driving back.
Oh God, maybe don't say that one on air. We'll point out all the hot chicks.
I always stare at hot chicks. Like Jared's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Did you see her?
Did you see
Me and Angie do the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
did you see that chick, babe? Like,
chicks?
there was this hot couple at the beach the other day, and I looked at Angie, I'm like, they are such a hot couple. And we were just staring at her for ages. I'm like, him and her, they're going to have such attractive kids, man.
They catch you staring and you're like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, literally. It's
Both of us do. Oh, God.
couple goals. It's funny though, like I don't look at people and go like, fuck, she's hot. I don't know. I've just, because I don't know, maybe I've just been in the industry for a little bit too long now, but like, and Will's the same. He won't look at a guy and be like, fuck, he looks fucking jacked. He'll look at him and be like, oh, his shoulders, like he lacks internal rotation here, or he needs, like, he'll break them down.
I'm so glad I do not think like that.
You don't?
No, I look at food like, you know, like unfortunately I can't
You
look at food.
structure it, yeah.
Right. I'm like, oh, food's like this. But I just look at people. I don't think like, I like, oh, that person's jacked. Like, I'll be, damn, look at the rig on this person type of thing. But then I'm, unfortunately, it sounds terrible, but I'm also judgmental. I'm like, you don't lift and you need to lift, you know?
I'll see a guy and I'm like, man, if you just train like twice full body a week, like the mass we could build.
I love Will's thinking that, oh man, the terrible internal rotation.
Literally, like when he's looking at bodybuilders doing their posing and stuff like that, he's like, fuck, this guy needs to work on this.
That's
like,
so good.
I guess it's just one of those things, like when you look at human movement all the time, it's just kind of like how
the first
you view,
thing that's
second name. Oh, like,
it's how you view the human body. And I don't look at people and be like, oh damn, you know. I'm just like, oh yeah, like he's tanned, or like
I'm always like, her legs are amazing.
He's tanned. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, look at those calves. Like, all right, so let me see. The last point that we have here, is there a point in time where a diet does impact strength?
Yes, length.
Yeah,
for sure. The longer it goes, or again, I guess the aggressiveness of it too, you know?
Yeah.
Or if people are actually like, even though we talk about, you know, you're not going to be depleted, if you are doing something like keto or anything where you've eliminated carbohydrates, there's still an energy source at the end of the day, and you are going to be lacking that. So there are impactful times that it will happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there anything in particular that you would say or do with a client to help them through that?
Give them carbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Oh, if it's too long, it's a diet break for sure. You know, the way I pick it, if someone needs a diet break, it's not so much as like, oh, you know, I feel a little bit tired. It's if their adherence is dropping.
Yes.
You know? And if it's more than twice a week where it's just things are going to shit, I'm like, let's just have a break, you know?
Yeah.
2-week break, it's okay. And people stress about it, but I'm like, do you want to have a successful period or do you want to start sliding backwards, basically?
Yeah. So do you do it more reactively or do you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because everyone's a little bit different. Like I said, Will's like, I'm just going to power through 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, I'll probably do 10 weeks before I need a bit of a mental break. I've had a client, she's been dieting 22 weeks and she's just cruising along because she's a heavier girl. There's no need for a diet break. She's on like 2,400 calories. Like she's fine. She's loving life. Yeah. So everyone's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. And like I guess it's the aggressiveness of it. I do it in 2 stages. I'll either do it reactively based on the things that are coming through and their feedback and stuff like that, or I'll proactively put one in here so I can get that accountability and that adherence for that period of time. And I'm like, I only need you to do this for 4 weeks. And then we've got 2 weeks here where you can settle in because of lifestyle stuff like music, concerts, birthdays, weddings, things like that. So I'll proactively put something around that time, knowing that like asking someone to be super strict and rigid at a wedding and a concert and stuff like that, like fucking have a good time, go and enjoy yourself. That's what you're there for. And then, okay, you've had that break. Now we go back into it. And the way in which I address either of those dieting phases really comes down to the individual and what they want, right? So like I could do something where, and it's the conversation I have. I'm like, do you, like, motivation is high right now. Do you want to go fucking hard right now whilst the motivation is there, knowing that it's only 4 weeks, pull back, and then we cruise, and then we go like a, you know, increase the calories, but it's still in a deficit. You know what I mean? Or do you want to do it the other way around? Do you want to start off slow, see how things kind of move, and then make the decision to go more aggressive after that dieting phase? So it really comes down to that conversation. And like we said at the very start of this, like the planning of it all and preparing them mentally for that sort of stuff. So like I'll definitely, I guess it's 2 different prongs, like, you know, based on what the person's saying. Like there's someone that I had a check-in with last week, and he was talking about like, oh, I want to keep like dieting, but he's sitting like 12 weeks out from a comp. And I've just said to him, I was like, dude, the signs that are coming up right now, like you're fucked, man. Like me, and you're not even being adherent to the calories that you've currently got set. So me sitting here and taking
doing my own thing.
Literally, like me sitting here saying to you, like, let's take more food away from you when you're not even following the food that's been set. Like, how is that going to help? It's just adding more stress when you're already fucking chronically fatigued. You're already really stressed. Your sleep's shit. Your food choices aren't great. Like and I actually increased his calories, and I'm like, what I'm going to do is rather than keep you at this like lower end of maintenance, I'm actually going to give you more food so that you can improve all those other lifestyle things that are going on and inhibiting you from being compliant in your next diet. So,
and it's funny because when people have permission, all of a sudden they can stick to stuff. The amount of clients that have been in a deficit, then they go to maintenance, they go, oh, I can't even eat this many calories. I'm like, well, now you're eating in a deficit. You know, you've got permission to do it. It's the human mind is a very funny thing sometimes.
And I think that's where a lot of our coaching really comes in. Like for us, we address a lot more of the psychological side 100%. Of things than we do numbers.
We were just talking about in the car, how like a lot of, because you're doing some more work in psychology.
Cool.
Because you've identified that's like
such a big thing. You know, again, like the mindset plays such a big part. And it's funny, like when I first ever started PT, like, you know, when you do your certificates, you got to train other people. The guy's like, you're a psychologist first. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah, you were definitely a psychologist first.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, it's funny, like that's why I started with Nexus all those years ago doing nutrition, because Will fucking hated it. He's like very process.
I can't deal with these humans who won't follow that.
What are these emotions?
Like, literally.
Why are you crying?
Just suck it up. But I mean, like, obviously as a coach, like, you know, he's still very empathetic with lifters, like failing lifts or moving through like training stuff. But when it comes to the emotion of food and stuff like that, Will's like, just fucking suck it up. You know what I mean? Like, if you're hungry, tough tits, you want to lose fat. Like, and I mean, he just stopped enjoying it. Like, I would say Will knows far more about nutrition, like the science of nutrition, than I do.
Yep.
But he hates the
application
and psychology of it. So he just draws himself back. And whenever I have a question that I don't know, I'll turn to him and I'll be like, "Oi, Will, like, what's your perspective on this? Or give me your insight on this." And it's great to have that bounce off with someone else. Yep. But
humans emoting is a big problem, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, literally. Literally. And we always say, like, try and remove the emotions from the situation and think logically about it. But, like, that's not always easy to do. So, cool. Is there any final words, anything else you wanted to add on that?
I think this was a good episode. That's all I have to say.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You liked it?
You did my notes justice, Mikki.
Let me make sure I didn't miss any. Is there anything else that you would add to that, Tyson?
Probably just, like, actually talking about leverage is changing.
Yeah.
People who are bigger, who will get leaner, you will be in a better leverage position. You know, the amount of people, like we say, get your gut out of the way, you're going to be able to deadlift a lot more weight when you get into a better starting position, for
100%,
sure. You know?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, lifting really is like Will always says, like, you can lift, you can think throughout the setup and getting yourself into a really good position. As soon as that weight leaves the floor, or as soon as the bar's on your back and you're descending in a squat, you're not thinking anymore. All that's running through your mind is, I don't want to die right now. And so if you can get into a better starting position and hold a better starting position and think throughout that process, which is going to help when you're dieting and can get into a better starting position, then you're going to be a better lifter long term. So that's just, little 2 cents there. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Great. Well, thank you very much, Tyson.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Give us your Instagram bios and all that sort of stuff, or where people can find you.
If you go to Instagram at Tyson the Trainer with 2 R's, you'll find everything. Like, I just live on Instagram basically, and everything circles around that.
Circles around it. Yeah, I think everyone else lives on Instagram too.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll put all that sort of stuff in the links below and stuff like that. But thank you very much for joining us today. If anyone wants to work with Tyson, then obviously head to those links and we'll go from there. But thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Woohoo.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Adios. Thank you for listening to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned in the podcast today, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gyms based in the Gold Coast and Townsville. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram for any updates on what we are currently doing, and we'll see you all in the next episode.